What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason with JCS Reefing and I wanted to wish everybody a happy new year. Hope everyone had great holidays. Hopefully some people had a little bit of a break. But to start the new year off, basically I wanted to go kind of a quick rundown of the 150 gallon tank behind me. I say quick, but it might be a little bit longer than my normal videos. Because I just don't know if I've ever done a video kind of explaining the equipment, the dosing, the supplements, kind of maintenance routine type stuff, and some of the challenges along the way, which I've absolutely had some. The tank is not quite a year old right now. It'll be a year old in March since I switched it over from my previous 100 gallon tank. But yeah, I just wanted to do kind of a video kind of going through all the equipment on the tank, and figured that'd kind of be something good to start out the year with. So without further ado, let's take a look at everything. Alright, so starting off with the tank. The tank is manufactured by SC Aquariums. It is 19 millimeter thick glass, Euro braced on the top. It is 72 inches long, 22 inches deep, and 22 inches high. Now the one regret that I did have is I used to have, my older tank was 24 inches deep, and I really wish I would have kept those dimensions. However, my wife wanted this very close to the wall to give us some more space in the dining room, and I didn't really want to argue with that. So next tank, I'll definitely keep that in mind when that time comes. As far as the lighting, I run 4 Ecotech Gen 4 Pros on the tank. These are the XR15s. Now I've thought about going up to the Gen 5s, but right now cost effective, it's just not worth it for me. These have been working flawlessly. I've had no issues, knock on wood. And unless they start breaking down and repairs, then I just don't see it being necessary. They're mounted on the RMS mount here on the top, and for lighting, that's pretty much all I use. As far as the top, I use a jump guard made by DD, I think it's DD Jump Guard or something like that, Pro. And it's very slimline, very sleek. You can't even really tell that it's on the tank when you're looking at it, especially hidden with the Euro bracing. Now as far as flow in the tank, I have 4 MP40s here on this side. This tank is set up kind of like a peninsula. The reason being I have a front door here, and when you look in, all my wires come across and go down, and they actually go through the wall into a kind of like a power cabinet, I guess you'd say, where all the power bricks and everything is. So there's 4 MP40s here on this wall, one high, one low. The tank is bare bottom, so I can really crank up the flow. This kind of tells me the level of the water, where the overflow is. The control panel here has all my MP40 vortex and my return, the apex, the Alexa. This is an oh shit switch, so in case anything happens, if there's a leak, I can just have my wife or child or whoever hit that switch and it will shut down everything for me. Now for the flow, I was having issues with a longer tank having some kind of film algae on the surface of the water. So very recently I just picked up this wave pump from Neptune and ran the cord up. I really wish I would have gone all Ecotech, but this was just cost effective for me right now to kind of see if it would work. And it's actually pretty nice because it just comes up, goes across, goes into my EB832, and there's no real big thing on the side. It's very minimalistic with the magnet. And then after I bought that one, I actually picked up a second one to add even more flow, and just to kind of give some more channel line flow down the rockwork on the tank. So I'm still thinking of maybe moving that one onto the overflow and just have all the pumps on this side and see if I can not have that film algae on the top. But having it over there definitely get rid of that problem, so we'll see. As far as the filtration on the tank, the sump is the Bashi Smart Series sump. I have a large refugium of Chaetomorpha here. I have mangroves growing here, which are actually surprisingly doing pretty well considering I've never grown them before, so this was kind of something that I just kind of gave a whirl. They are stuck into, you can't see, but here there's a bin full of pond matrix kind of rocks, basically porous rocks, and the roots are actually sunk into that, so I think that's kind of helped them pretty good. As far as lighting for the refugium, I have a Reef Bright. I actually ordered this from them. I just called and asked what they sell these that come with the geo sumps, and I saw them, and I just emailed Reef Bright to see what kind of light, and they ended up just saying that, you know, this is the cost, blah blah blah, and they sent it to me. So I do run a Neptune Grow. This has been working pretty good as basically just some supplemental lighting. Probably 90% of the lighting for the mangroves comes from that. There is some obviously from the Reef Bright. For skimmer, I basically use a Curve 7. It's nothing fancy. I put a DIY kind of squeegee here so I can just spin it when I need to clean the neck. So that's been working pretty good. For the return pump, I run a Vectra M1, which is teed off in here. Excuse all the wires, still working on that right now, but teed off into a aqua ultraviolet UV, and I actually, you know, this stands up in this little 3D printed stand back here. I do have a leak sensor right next to it, so if there's ever an issue with that, it'll detect the leak, yeah, so that flows and then comes back into here and returns and goes back into the return section. I do dose a little bit of Kato Grow, Neo Nitro when I need to. If you don't have one of these, definitely pick one of these up. It's basically just really good when you buy corals. You can get all the crap, and I don't know, it just comes in handy for a lot of stuff. This is RODI water for spritzing the mangroves every other day or so. And as far as dosing, I use a Versa, and this is basically the only dosing that well, I should say dosing, but the only daily thing that is supplemented. And what I was dosing before was a calcium reactor. I was using a calcium reactor, but I wanted to try out a different product. Sorry, kids. So I wanted to try out a new product, and I did a separate video on this, but this is basically called Alpha Reef by Tropic Marine. It's a one dose supplement. It supplements your alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, trace elements. So that's actually been working pretty good. I dose 35 milliliters per day, and that's, the Versa does it continuously during the day, so it's a very, very slow drip. Kind of sort of like a calcium reactor would do, very steady throughout the day. For temperature wise, I do use the BRS heater, which is connected to an Inkbird heating element, or sorry, not heating element, an Inkbird temperature controller. This is also connected into my Apex, so if this fails, my Apex would shut off the heater. For cooling, it's basically nothing but just a little fan that's clipped on up here. So if the temperature gets too high, the fan kicks on. If the water gets too cold, the heater kicks on, you know, yada yada yada. Yeah, so most of the wires go through the wall. There's two holes, there's one here and there's one on the other side. The plumbing is actually hidden kind of up beyond the stand, so it's actually notched. The stand is notched out and hidden up here. And what I did do actually is put this tray up here to catch, just in case a bulkhead ever had a leak. There is a tray right here with a leak detector in it. So if a bulkhead were to leak, it would drip into this tray, and then it would, you know, send me an alert through the Apex and shut off the return to not cause any more leaks in the house. So happy wife, happy life. So that's pretty much it for this side of the tank. One other thing that I use pretty frequently is up here. I have a Wise Cam mounted up here. So this comes in pretty handy. If you go on vacation or something, I can basically see my whole sump and check the water lines, the skimmer, so on and so forth. But as far as plumbing, you know, it's not anything fancy, but it is hidden. So if you open the doors or anything, you really don't see any plumbing unless you get down and really look up. As far as supplements, with the exception of the Alpha Reef, I dose coral aminos by Brightwell. Every once in a while when I need to, I dose potassium. I've experimented a little bit with this razor, which is helping a little bit. I'm kind of battling a little bit of hair algae. I'll go through that here in a minute. Huge advocate of Benepets. I actually kind of got away from using some of the Reefroids. Love them both, but I really like this one. It doesn't raise my phosphates nearly as much. A lot of ICP tests come back low with iodine, and I've been dosing that just when needed, when it's low. Twice a month I use Live Rock Enhance, mix this up in some salt water, dump it in, and then of course magnesium if I need to. Clean the glass with Fritz. This thing's pretty handy. It's like an automatic toothbrush almost, but really much bigger. And I use this to get algae or anything kind of real nasty off the rocks if I need to. But yeah, this was on Amazon for like, I don't know, 25 bucks or something like that. So it works pretty good. I have my main drain right here if I need to tune it. It's right there. And yeah, so let's go on the other side of this wall. So on the other side of this wall is where basically all my power is. It comes through and actually goes through this wall. So take a look at that. So we are now on the opposite side of that wall. Get some of this out of there. And this is basically my power control stand. So it has my apex, all my power bricks. Like I said, still got some management to do down here. Back here is a battery backup for my Ecotex. So I do have a little small battery that usually will run the pump at like 10% for a good while. My top off container is nothing fancy. It is a Brute container. I think it's like 10 gallons, something like that. I think it's 10 gallons. Right here it comes in from that other port that I showed you previously, and it basically fills. Inside of it is a float valve right there, and then I also have the what is it, like the wife saver, I guess, but it's a high level sensor basically. So if this float valve ever fails, it doesn't overflow because it'll hit the solenoid and it'll shut off that solenoid inside. So that's just part of that. Up there is the leak sensor. I run a Tunzi osmolator for top off, and as far as the equipment, I think that's about it. Okay, so as far as livestock in the tank, I'm going to try to do this as best I can. This is kind of the lighting that I set for video. Hopefully it turns out okay. I do have, I use the clips every once in a while, but I feel like sometimes they just give you a real artificial glow. It's great. It makes your corals pop and do all that, but try to keep this natural. So as far as all the fish, I have a Nassau tang, a hippo tang, foxface, Scopus tang, yellow tang, longfin fairy wrasse, maybe? There's a bunch of wrasses. There's probably about 4 or 5 of them in here. A lot of them hide. I have a cardinal fish right here, 2 clownfish. There's another wrasse down there. There's a 6-line wrasse somewhere. Very hard to pick them all out, to be honest with you. Oh, there he is. I use a couple urchins, which like to pick up anything and everything and bring it around. So apparently I got some zoas that I can put on a frag or whatever. So starting on this side of the tank, so like I said, I've been battling a little bit of hair algae. You can definitely see a little bit on this rock. This is the main rock that I've been kind of having issues with. So what I've been doing is basically using that scrubby brush, kind of scrubbing a lot of it off, plucking it off. Spot treating with hydrogen peroxide. I think it's 1 milliliter per 10 gallons of water. So as I see some kind of popping up, I'll kind of just use a little syringe, get in there, and just treat it here and there a couple times a week. Slow and steady is kind of my motto, so that's kind of what I go with. The candy canes seem to be doing all right. This one was buried back in the tank, so that's why I moved it from the back to the front, so it's not looking so healthy. But as far as everything else, so when I first set this tank up, I really had issues with phosphates and nitrates, trying to keep them up. Everything was just super clean. I lost a lot of LPS, a few SPS. So yeah, there was a little bit of a battle switching over as expected. But stuff is starting to come back. This is one of my favorite ones back here. I have no idea the name of it, which is crazy. It's my favorite one probably, and I don't know the name. So if you know the name of this, feel free to drop a comment and let me know. But it is starting to come back. I'll have to do some top-down shots because these don't really do any justice for it, but it's definitely one of my favorites. You get a Favia, Monty, and some other frags that are, you know, starting to kind of come back. The purple stylo is doing just fine. I did have issues with magnesium. So what I've noticed with my tank is I used to have another big green Monty right here, and that totally shit the bed. So believe it or not, I don't know if it's just mine, but Monties, if my magnesium goes a little bit low, for whatever reason, they start to gray out almost in the middle and go on gray from the middle on the outside. But it is starting to come back. It's starting to grow on the glass. So hopefully some of these other encrusting LPS right here, hopefully some of these will start fully growing. I'm waiting till they get completely around the plug, and then I'll snip the bottom of the plug off and then hopefully glue those on the bottom and let them basically completely encrust the bottom of the glass. So that's kind of my plan. As far as the Duncans, looking pretty healthy. You got the crazy toadstool. I've moved this thing about 800 times. I just moved it, believe it or not, this morning, so that's why it's looking pretty rough right now. So probably gonna take that to the local fish shop and trade it in for something, because I just don't really know if I want it or where to put it. Some more SPS here. Like I said, I'm not great with names, man. If you know the names of them, please feel free to drop it and I'll write it down to keep track of everything. Bird's nest here. You got your Akins, the Blasto, Musa right here. Zoanthids, I've had no issue growing zoanthids. They're actually growing up the front of the glass, so that's kind of a pain in the ass. And then, yeah, other than that, everything seems to be kind of bouncing back. So like I said, I did have issues keeping phosphates and nitrates up, and then I've had some hair algae with dosing some of that, obviously, trying to get my, basically my refugium to outcompete the tank. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's a slow pace. I don't try to do anything quick. So that's kind of one thing that I'll definitely say to anybody is just don't do anything fast. As far as the frog spawn, this thing is huge. It doesn't really do much justice on camera, but it's very large. It takes up almost the whole side of the 22 inches, you know. So it's like, I don't know, it's pretty large. It's got a lot of heads. The back glass actually used to be clear, used to see right through it, but time, you know, it's tough. Time gets away from you, and now you can see it's completely covered in coralline algae. And scraping that, what it does when I scrape it, every time I scrape it, it raises my alkalinity pretty drastically, so I can only do a little bit at a time. So I kind of just gave up for that for now, and I actually put a piece of black. I'm kind of experimenting. So half of the tank is black, half of it is clear, kind of figuring out what I like the best. So if you have a preference on that, feel free to drop a comment. Got plenty of cleanup crew. Gotta definitely siphon out some of this detritus over here. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, everything seems to be bouncing back, seems to be doing okay. This is one of the complete colonies that I completely lost, so it's definitely a challenging thing, and I've been doing this for many years, and you always have issues. There's always something that kind of comes up. So anybody who's new out there, do not get discouraged when things start taking a turn for the worst. Just be slow and steady, get it back on track, and go from there. So that's pretty much it. I hope everyone had a great new year, and happy holidays, and let's see what 2022 will bring us. Cheers.